Oh man, do you feel it, Jez? Do you feel it? Excitement is in the air as we're like 3 days away from E3, and this is our last podcast before. Oh my god, I'm such a noob. You know what? I forgot to mute YouTube, so I started hearing my terrible voice in my headphones, and I just had this thought about why does anybody even listen to me? Why do people subscribe to my YouTube channel? Because I sound horrible. Uh, anyways, what's going on, everybody? Thanks for joining the Xbox 2 podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Randall Thor 19, and with me, as always, the one who makes the show go, Jez Corden of Windows Central. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, pal. I got some mixed fruit cider here, so who knows? Maybe I get drunk enough to spill the beans. Nah, I don't know. So, but I think we're in for a very fun couple of weeks, buddy. You and I. Couple of great podcasts coming up, I think.
Yeah, now you're really interesting because you said on Twitter that you're suddenly excited for E3, and I wonder why. I wonder what could possibly have changed your mind.
This happened last year too, I think, where I was like pessimistic, and you get closer to the thing, and then like you start hearing things, little things start to leak out, and it's like, oh damn, this is actually going to be quite fun. So I'm on the E3 hype optimism train right now. I was on the E3, don't expect too much train, but now I'm sort of like, maybe it could be pretty cool. So
I've always been a half, glass half empty kind of guy. So I've been a little more pessimistic on Xbox's E3, but even me, after having a conversation with somebody, I'm really looking forward to it more than I was before. Maybe some of the things I predicted might not come to pass. Maybe there'll be more of what I thought there wouldn't be. But yeah,
that's the thing, man. Like a lot of the people who are like usually very negative and critical, like other journalists that I speak to, a lot of those sort of people who are often quite critical or dismissive of Microsoft, even they're pretty excited now. So I don't know, man. I just hope they have a really killer show. I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic.
and already we have a super chat from Captain Redbeard. He says, I have a bold prediction. Bethesda announces Wet 2. I love the first one. And I actually played Wet 1, and it is actually a decent game. I wouldn't mind there being a sequel to that game.
I have a friend who, like, he's passionate about how much he hates that game. And he brings it up at least, like, well, I haven't spoken to him for a long time, but he used to bring it up at least once a week. How much he hated that game. I've never played it, so wasn't it kind of like almost like a Tony Hawk's-ish in a way, but a shooter?
Kind of, but I think I played through that game 3 times. It was a shooter. It was a B-tier shooter, but it was enjoyable. Man, so what do we have on the docket for today? Well, we're going to be talking about Matt Booties, and I love that name, and Jez loves that name. Booties.
Booty.
The booty
time. It's booty time on the Xbox podcast.
Yeah, the new boss of Microsoft Studios, the head of what will probably be, Microsoft first-party studios. He gave an interview, and we're going to talk about that. Are they going to do single player, or will it be games as a service? We're also going to be talking about Microsoft potentially they are about to acquire Playground Games, the Forza Horizon developer, if that's great for Xbox, or is it one of those situations where since they are only an Xbox developer, it's not that big of a deal because they only made Xbox games anyways? Because I've seen people say that, and we'll discuss that, as well as the Crackdown 3 delay to 2019, according to Kotaku. Kotaku.
What do they know?
And Jason Schreier. So we will talk about all that stuff and whatever else comes to mind. Make sure you guys put your comments in the chat if you have anything you want to say. Super chat is always open to get an instant response. And so let's go. As always, before we get into the juicy topics that everybody is here for, it's games though, because we play games. We like to talk about them, and they're the most important thing. And you've been playing a game that you told me is really, really enjoyable, and you weren't expecting much out of it. And that's Vampyr or Vampire or however you want to pronounce it.
I interviewed the devs of this game like I think, was it last year or the year before? It was a long time ago, back when I was a little newbie journalist. And the first thing I asked them was, "How do you pronounce the name of your game?" And I've forgotten. But let's just call it Vampyr for the sake of posterity. But yeah, so Vampyr is I've been playing Vampyr all week. Trying to review it, but the review code came in very, very late, literally hours before the embargo, so that wasn't gonna happen. And then also all the three work and stuff like that. So I haven't got around to reviewing it yet, but I'm already in a position where I'm more than happy to recommend this game. It's a sort of gothic, branching narrative action RPG with like bloody vampire combat with branching skill trees and on all that sort of all the things you expect of this sort of RPG. All that stuff is there. Looting boxes. Like there's a sort of rudimentary crafting system and leveling system and all that sort of stuff. But the most interesting thing about Vampyr is the sort of it's got this whole vampire life simulator on top of it. So like it's made by Don't Nod Entertainment, who made Life is Strange.
And Remember Me, if you remember that game.
I do not remember Me.
You didn't play Remember Me on the 360? What's wrong with you?
No, I didn't. I've never even heard of it until someone told me they'd also made this game. But no, I don't remember Me. But was that game any good?
I mean, that would be what I consider a B tier game. It was okay. I enjoyed it, but Life is Strange is better, and it sounds like Vampyr is probably better too.
Yeah, I imagine so. They've sort of they've taken everything I learned from Life is Strange, I think, and sort of combined that with sort of gothic action RPG. And this whole vampire layer it is a very narrative heavy game. So if you're the kind of person who doesn't like going through all the different dialogue options when you're talking to people, it's probably not going to be a game for you. It's sort of it's got a very narrative heavy balance to its overall structure. Whereas like sometimes you can go for like hours without actually fighting anything because you're spending so much time investigating and talking to people and that sort of thing. So like if you don't like those sorts of games, you probably won't like Vampyr that much. It's not combat heavy. And there's no there are like these sort of mini dungeons as well. Like one mission early on, you have to go through an abandoned morgue to find some evidence and stuff. And obviously that's sort of like a mini dungeon going through these buildings and full of weird creatures and stuff like that. But it is not a combat heavy game, at least not to the point that I've played. I'm on chapter 4 now, I think. Right. But in any case, the coolest thing about it is the whole vampire lifestyle. So like all the NPCs in the game have like this rich backstory, and they all have like interconnected lives. Like even the vendors you meet in the different areas. It's got a sort of hub layout like Deus Ex, the Deus Ex games, and you move from area to area around London, which is gripped by this Spanish flu plague, and everyone's dying of plague and whatever. And it's set during World War and all that sort of stuff, and you sort of go around from person to person, learning about all their lives and their interconnected backstories and stuff. And the leveling system is intricately woven with this vampire lifestyle system. So you can choose not to kill anyone, but in doing so, you are sacrificing the ability to level up. So essentially, you're making the game harder for yourself, and like you'll eventually come to a boss fight which might be like too difficult for you to kill, and then it becomes a question of, well, I've sort of got no choice now. I have to eat someone's blood to level up. You can grind on like low level mobs, and like when you go to a save point, all the mobs respawn, kind of like Dark Souls in that sense. But so you can grind, but it's really slow. The fastest the fastest, most efficient way to level up is to literally learn everything you can about an NPC, heal their sicknesses because you are a doctor as well, and that gets the quality of their blood up, which gives you more experience. So you can get anything from like up to 5 levels from eating one person. So it forces you to struggle with your own skill. It's kind of like, okay, I'm level 8 and I'm trying to fight a boss that's level 24. It's kicking my ass. So I can either go back and choose some people to kill, or try and like get good and slog through this really hard boss fight, because it is totally possible if you're super pro to
So can
overcome
you
those
be
bosses.
so Greg wants to know in chat if you can be a good vampire.
Now that's the thing, right? It's sort of like it plays on this sort of grey area morality. So obviously you can be a good vampire in the sense that you can choose who to kill. So like there might be an NPC who's a gangster, he's an asshole, and you learn more about his family and stuff, and you learn that maybe he's abusing his kids, or he's beating up his wife or something, and it becomes like, well, drinking this guy's blood it's a no-brainer. But the thing is, there's often like these unintended consequences where like, and this isn't a spoiler by the way, but it's this is the sort of thing that might happen. Like you think it's okay to drink the blood of this person because they're an asshole, but maybe that asshole was also giving money to his sick mother or something, and now his sick mother is gonna die because she's got no money and stuff like that. So it's sort of like it's all about choice and consequence, and like you can sort of mitigate it by learning as much as you can about the potential consequences of your actions. And it's not perfect the way it works. Like sometimes it forces you to make these guesses, and it can be frustrating where it's like, I've learned everything I can about this person, I still don't know if it's a good idea to kill them or not. So it's not perfect in that sense, and I can imagine some people being annoyed about that, especially people who like they really want to play the moral vampire. It's really hard to do that, I think, in this game, to play something that's completely moral. But because you're a vampire, the game explores that as well. Like in the writing, it's like I want to be a good person because this guy's a doctor. He wants to heal the sick. He's a doctor, Hippocratic oath, and all that sort of stuff. But at the same time, he's got this need to drink people's blood, and he wants to find out how he became this creature. And also there's this sort of overarching mystery of maybe there's something more to this Spanish flu epidemic than just your standard flu epidemic.
Right.
So like,
Irrelevant Native wants to know if it's worth the $60 price tag.
now that's at this point, I don't think I'm far enough in the game to say, and I have encountered some really annoying bugs. I'm playing on the Xbox One S right now. The frame rate gets really, really bad sometimes on the S. Like you can be fighting like in a fairly closed space with like 4 dudes attacking you, and my frames have gone down to anywhere like 10 or lower. And like it hasn't got me killed yet, but I could imagine it probably could get me killed at some point if it lags that bad. And it doesn't happen often, but it's like this game does need a patch. And also I've had instances where NPCs dialogue hasn't loaded, and I've had to reboot the game to fix it. I've had the game crash to the desktop once, which is annoying as well. So there is a lack of polish there, at least on the Xbox One S. So I don't know if I'm willing to recommend it for $60 at this point, but so far I'm really enjoying it. And I think like if you don't have much to play right now and you're an RPG fan, I think you'll enjoy it and get a lot out of it. But if you do have like a huge backlog, you could probably give it a miss or wait for a sale at the minute. But that's my current opinion of it, having played like maybe about 10 hours or so. But like I'm waiting to find out more. I mean, I could get further through and just be like, oh my god, this is incredible. Like I have to recommend it just because of the things that happen in the story. It feels like it's the story that you're gonna remember this game for more than anything.
Right.
The animations are a bit wonky. The combat's not perfect, and it feels a bit unrefined. Like it reminds me a lot of The Witcher 2 in the sense that it's unrefined in a lot of ways. But it's the first game in what I think could be a very promising franchise. And as Don't Nod and Focus Home Interactive get more money and and reinvest it in the quality of this franchise. Like I can imagine Vampyr 2 being very, very, very good indeed. So I'm excited about the franchise, but I don't know if I'd recommend it for $60 just at this point. Like if I hadn't got it for free, I'd probably still be playing Frostpunk instead, and enjoying it. So that's my take on it, man. I think like if you like action RPGs and you like games with a branching narrative, like that old school BioWare sort of feel, I think it's I think you'll enjoy it. So
Awesome.
I think you'll enjoy it, Rand.
I mean, yeah, I'm gonna play it this weekend after I finish up Onrush. But anything else you've been playing, or is
That's
Vampyr
pretty much it.
pretty much it?
I've got Moonlighter, which I want to play, which is by the devs of Frostpunk, which came out it came out last week, I think. Moonlighter. It's kind of like I've heard it's been described to me as like a Zelda meets Shopkeeper meets what's that game now? Stardew Valley. Like it's got sort of simulation management elements, so I'm gonna try that as well. But now I've just been playing Vampyr, State of Decay 2, and Frostpunk, but also Rand. I tried to kill the Megalodon today in Sea of Thieves.
Right. So you finally went back to Sea of Thieves. You know, it being the PUBG of 2018. And how was it?
I am really upset with Sea of Thieves right now. This DLC, I don't know if you know much about this Megalodon DLC, but okay, so Sea of Thieves issued a free content update called Hungering Deep, right? Which looked really promising. It's got this giant shark in it, which looks awesome, and you know, the shark has its own AI, and it, you know, hacks your boats and can eat you and all that sort of stuff. And it looks really great in the trailers. But this is my experience with it, Rand. We traveled to the place where you're meant to spawn the Megalodon. And we were waiting there for about 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes. We were waiting there playing a drum because in order to spawn the Megalodon, you need 5 players, not 4, 5 players. You can only invite 4 players to your crew. So in order to get the 5th, you have to go and meet another player out in the world and ask them to come with you to this specific place on the map to spawn the Megalodon. We couldn't find anyone. For 2 hours, we were searching for people to kill this stupid shark with. We even had people on the stream trying to server hop by killing themselves and then rebooting the game to try and get into our server. And I was waiting dead on the ghost ship to try and see if I could find someone to message them on Xbox Live to beg them to come and help us kill this shark. We couldn't find anyone. In the end, we came upon this sloop and we got off the ship and we were going to them. We were like, please, can you help us kill this Megalodon? They couldn't hear us. Either they didn't have microphones or whatever. They couldn't hear us. We tried using text chat because one of us was playing on PC with crossplay. They didn't respond. So in the end, we got so annoyed, we put about 40 cannonballs into their ship. It looked like Swiss cheese. And then we turned the game off. It was like, seriously, I've never seen so many holes in a ship in my life. But like, it was an incredibly frustrating experience, and it's really annoying because Rare have always said with this game they want to remove the barriers to playing together. They want to remove the barriers to playing together. That's why like it's got a flat progression system. Anyone can play with anyone. Blah blah blah. But we couldn't find anyone to spawn this bloody shark because they made it require 5 players, and you can only invite 4 players into a crew. So I'm done with it. I'm done.
You're done.
I'm done, man. I'm done.
Until they get fishing, and then you're back in.
Until they get fishing, then I'm back in. But for now, I am done, and I ain't doing that bloody shark because I ain't got time to sit around waiting for the chance of finding a player who isn't gonna kill me to kill this shark. So I was really fed up, man. I mean, we had loads of people who would have done it with us on the stream, but we couldn't invite them to the crew.
So are you going to tweet out that you've had an epiphany and that Sea of Thieves is now the radical heights of 2018?
No, Rand, because I've got an idea. What if, right, PUBG loses so many players to Fortnite that it only ends up with like 3,000 concurrent players, and Sea of Thieves beats it because of that? Then it will be the PUBG of 20.
Yeah, any way to make your Twitter statement be true. But
it could still happen, man. it could still happen.
Yeah, so I've been playing a couple games though. I haven't been playing as much PUBG. I'm trying to get away from that. Trying to kick the addiction cold turkey. And how do you do that? Well, with some games. I put up a review for Shape of the World, which is an indie game that came out this past week. It's a walking simulator. It looks really nice, has some great music. It's an hour long and there's no story and stuff. Interesting game. I don't think it's really for a lot of people. I think that a lot of people would be disappointed in the length and what you actually do. But it certainly was one of those experiences with all the color changes and the music and like just some that dreamlike surreal state. So if you want to learn more about that, you can check out the review. And I've been also playing Onrush, which came out the same day as Vampyr, which I got both games and I'll be doing reviews for both of them. The Onrush review will be out tomorrow. And you know what? I'm actually really enjoying Onrush. It is a car combat game, so it's not a racer, right? It's totally different from like your Forzas or your Gran Turismos. The point of the game isn't to be cross the finish line first. It's a team-based car combat game, 6v6, so you or a couple of your friends on one team versus AI. And if you don't have anybody to play with, you'll have AI teammates. And it is just kind of like a mix of Blur meets Burnout, kind of with the game modes of a first-person shooter. It's one of the more unique racing games I've ever played. And man, it runs so good on the X. Probably runs incredibly well on the Pro. Solid 60 frames, and I'm having a good time with it. But we'll go more into that in depth when I actually do the review for it. But my initial kind of response is, man, this is fun. I wish more people were playing it because I could play the campaign in co-op with friends. But it definitely surprised me. So that's what I've been playing this week. But of course, there is a bunch of news that kind of hit, some rumors, some speculation, and things like that. So what do you want to tackle first, Jazz? You want to tackle the Playground Games stuff?
Yeah, why don't we tackle that first?
All right, so Playground Games. Well, we all know. Okay, so here's the deal with Playground Games. There are what you would refer as a second party to Microsoft. Ever since their creation, they've only made the Forza Horizon series, Forza Horizon 1 and 2 and 3. They're rumored to be building Fable at their second studio that they're building, right? And it came out that one of like Microsoft's bigwigs or corporate development dudes, I forget his name, recently was appointed to the board of directors of Playground Games, which is on the UK government website for it. And this guy tends to get inserted into the board of directors right before Microsoft comes in and buys the company. He did it with Rare, did it with Lionhead, he did it with LinkedIn. So, of course, people are running with the notion that this is pretty much a done deal at this point, and that Microsoft maybe potentially at E3 will announce the purchase of Playground Games joining Microsoft first-party studios. And I think I made the argument that it's good for a couple different reasons. One, because in my opinion, Playground Games are a great developer, and you never want to lose a great developer. I likened it to the situation with BioWare back in the 360. Even though they were independent, they really only worked with Microsoft. They had the Jade Empire game on Xbox. They had Knights of the Old Republic on Xbox. They partnered with Microsoft to do Mass Effect. And they were a great developer, but EA came along and bought them, and then Mass Effect went multi-platform and stuff. And I just saw a scenario where Fable comes out and is really good, and people take notice of the developer because, quite frankly, even though the Forza Horizon games are great, nobody really gives them any credit because they think racing games are so easy to make. Like, oh, it doesn't really matter if Forza Horizon 3 is a 91 on Metacritic. It's just a racing game. It's like racing games don't matter in the grand scheme of things. They're just like, I don't know, they're not important enough. But if they turned and went and did Fable and revitalized that franchise, made it a commercial success and a critical success, everybody would take notice. All the different publishers out there, and potentially somebody else comes in and swoops up Playground, or maybe starts to work with them, and then Microsoft doesn't have a company that they, were partners with for a long time. So they're a great developer, as proven by their previous games, and you want great developers if you're trying to build up their first party, which Phil Spencer and Matt Booty have talked about. They've talked about building first party, and we haven't really seen any action taken on that. Now, Terry Myerson has been recently removed from Microsoft. The Xbox division has been moved out from underneath Windows to its own division as a core, pillar of Microsoft. And them actually spending the money to buy Playground in their 2 studios, them essentially building that studio in San Diego with David Gallagher would ease a lot of people's concerns that Microsoft is serious about it, because the proof is in the pudding. It would be tangible evidence that Microsoft is very serious about next generation in gaming if they actually acquired Playground instead of just, signing them to do games. What do you think, Jez?
I think you've hit the nail on the head there. Especially, I'm not a fan of racing games. I mean, anyone who knows me knows that I don't like racing games. They don't have guns in them, or blood, or death, or pain. Sorry, I got carried away there. But I don't like racing games. But what's important here is the message it's sending. The message to me that it sends to me is that we are here. We are ready to build on our first party lineup as per the feedback from you lovely people, you lovely gamers, who give us very constructive feedback about the state of our games and the games lineup. That's what we're doing. We're going to build a first party. And like you said, Playground isn't like some 2-bit developer. They're not a small studio. They've got 400 developers, very talented team, hiring from Rockstar, Rocksteady, and they've got like lots of Microsoft veterans there, like Lionhead people and all that sort of stuff. So it's like they are an ideal candidate. And I think also it sort of alleviates that fear with Amazon and Tencent, especially Tencent, who are like placing these strategic purchases all over the place, little bits of strategic purchases all over the place. With Tencent so aggressive, and Amazon also looking to get into the whole game, and with Amazon poaching Xbox staff left, right, and center, it would prevent those guys from potentially stealing Playground from underneath Microsoft and screwing up their one of their biggest franchises now, which is Forza Horizon. So I don't see any downsides to this, and anyone who's an Xbox fan will probably be celebrating, I would have thought. Personally.
Okay. Personally, what do you think? I mean, personally, you're going to say, I don't care. It's got no chainsaws on it. It's cars. Who cares about racing, right? That's what you're going to say.
Yeah. Yeah. But it's good for Xbox. That's the main takeaway.
Well, what about the sentiment? Because I've heard this from other people who podcast and make videos. I've even heard this from my own group of friends when we were talking about this in party chat. The idea that Microsoft buys Playground really doesn't do anything for the end Xbox user, because Playground Games was only making Xbox games anyways. So you're essentially just getting what you've always gotten. It's not like Microsoft went out and bought Rockstar or something who used to make multi-platform games. They're just buying a developer who only made Xbox games from the inception of the studio. Is there any like valid criticism there about how this really doesn't mean anything because it's just getting what we got?
It's I mean, sure, why not? I mean, you can say anything you want about this, but it's like people who want to criticize Microsoft, they'll find a way to spin this in a negative light, obviously, every time. So, but it would have been 10 times worse if another company had put a stake into Playground or purchased Playground outright, because, clearly, even though, like, I've spoken to people at that studio, and I often hear that there is a very, strong culture there of valuing their independence, which is why this news was a bit of a shock to me, and I think a bit of a shock to some other people who thought that it wouldn't happen because they have a culture of value in their independence. From what I've been told, obviously I don't know for sure because I don't work there, but this is just what I've heard, and I've also heard similar things from other people who've spoken to people at that studio. So it was a bit of a surprise to me, but clearly Microsoft either offered them some very very favorable terms, and similarly to what they're probably offered Mojang and stuff like that. Well, obviously they offered Mojang billions of dollars, but they're not going to be. I doubt this acquisition is going to run in the billions, but it's like, they can. There's things they can do to sweeten the deal. Like they can be like, you'll still be able to run independently. I mean, this is like the chap from GitHub and the GitHub community has been so critical of this acquisition. Microsoft acquiring GitHub for over 7 billion, I believe, something like that. And the GitHub community have been so angry about this. But at some point, it becomes like a company makes you an offer that it's just like no human being would refuse, And the GitHub guys did a Reddit AMA today, and they were saying stuff like, Microsoft is giving us like completely free independence, and we're not because people were worried about privacy, right? Their private repositories getting accessed by Microsoft, and they were like, we're going to use Microsoft's technology to enhance privacy, not diminish privacy and stuff like that. So, when a company's ethos lines up with the company that's doing the acquiring, then sometimes it just makes sense. And clearly, Playground sees a good future for the company under Microsoft, and hopefully they're right. Clearly, Phil and if it's true, obviously we don't know if it's true yet, but if it is true, then it's kind of like they probably put forth a proposal that just looked very attractive, like.
Like
we'll let you be independent. We'll let you do this, blah blah blah. This isn't Steve Ballmer's Microsoft anymore. It's a different company. Steve Ballmer would have been like, yeah, you can make Fable, but it has to be Windows 8 based. It has to be a game. It has to be free to play. It has to have loot boxes, blah blah blah. It's a different era now, and I think like we're gonna see a lot of that at E3, where Microsoft's just gonna be more consumer centric. I mean, I hope. This is my hope. I could be completely wrong. I could be completely wrong. Maybe Phil is like, a wolf in sheep's clothing, and he's actually evil.
They're all evil.
They're all evil, and this is they've learned this a full sense of security, and then we'll turn on our Xboxes after E3, and suddenly there's a big thing on the screen that says, you need to pay, 50 cents to view the dashboard, But
Gunstar wants to know if the acquisition of GitHub benefits us as Xbox gamers. And I don't know anything about GitHub, but I'm going to say absolutely not. GitHub has nothing to do with Xbox at all. It's just a Microsoft as a company thing, right? Not an Xbox thing.
Yeah, GitHub. I don't know if GitHub necessarily will affect anything at Xbox. I mean, I do believe that Microsoft will be moving some of its systems to GitHub. This is something else I've heard, but I don't think it's going to affect Xbox in any way. They might move some of the insider stuff over to GitHub, maybe. That's what I've heard, but because they recently moved to Reddit, but after this, they might be moving again to GitHub. So for sharing features and feedback and stuff like that. I don't know, but it's not going to affect Xbox in any way. But it's just I'm using the GitHub example to illustrate how Satya Nadella and the other executives at Microsoft are operating the company in a different way. I mean, buying GitHub is embracing open source software. That's what that is. Can you imagine? You would never have dreamed of associating Microsoft with open source in the Ballmer era, But now here we are, and it's a different Microsoft. And I just hope that they are focusing on what they can do for their fans, what they can do for developers, bring games to more screens for developers, and ultimately be a nice company and not a shit company like, what has earned them this reputation over.
Yeah. Shout out to Showin W for the super chat. He says GitHub is open source repository. That's why people are mad. Yeah. I don't know anything about GitHub. I remember when it happened. I asked Jez. I'm like, Jez, what is this? And he's like, don't worry, man. Don't worry about it. Nothing to do to Xbox. But to me, back to the Playground games thing here. It's no coincidence that Terry Myerson leaves, and suddenly you start hearing about Microsoft acquiring studios. In my opinion, those two are there's a direct correlation. Because I've heard, and I'm sure Jazz has heard, and other people have said, whether you go to Reset Era, that the checkbook is open now. That Microsoft truly believes in gaming as a pillar of the corporation, and they are going to spend money to get to that point. Whereas before, that wasn't necessarily the case. So you have Myerson leave, and suddenly Microsoft is about to buy Playground Games, which, Jez, would be Microsoft's second biggest studio or second biggest developer if they bought them. They'd be right underneath 343. Right? And the San Diego one. So it would go a lot, tangible evidence to prove what Microsoft and Phil has been saying for years, which, you shouldn't believe just words. Words are cheap. Actions are what matter. So, like, they've been saying, we're going to build first party, and you haven't seen it. So you have the right to question if you really are about that life. And even if Playground Games is only made Xbox games, and Microsoft does decide to buy them, I understand the want to downplay it because they've only made Xbox games, but honestly, it would be cheaper for Microsoft in the long run to not buy them, to just give them a contract to make us Forza Horizon. It's a lot more risky, and it costs a lot more money to then suddenly bring in 400 employees who then become Microsoft employees. They're not Xbox employees. Like, anybody who works at Xbox or within the different divisions of Microsoft are Microsoft employees, and they're paid extremely well because they have to be, because they compete with the Googles and the Apples of the world. They're compensated well, and they have great benefit packages and all that stuff. Which is why they're always looking to trim the fat. So bringing on two studios with immense overhead and 400 employees that you now have to pay like Microsoft employees and get the same benefits as everybody else, that's expensive. Build a San Diego studio from the ground up, that's expensive. But it goes to prove that maybe those words that they've been talking about forever are now becoming real, right?
Mm-hmm.
At least in my opinion. And quite frankly, I'm glad, because I've seen this scenario play out. I saw it play out with BioWare and some of the other studios, and it's like I saw like a scenario where Fable does well, and then here comes EA because we want an RPG game and snatches up Playground, or Activision being like, you know what, we like you, we're snatching you up, and then we don't get any more Forza Horizons, which I love, and you don't get any more Fables or any other new IP that they would create down the road. And I think maybe that this move was just a preventative measure of that, Any final thoughts on this one, Jez?
No, man. I hope this isn't the last we see, the last rumor we see, or obviously everyone assuming this is true. I mean, the evidence is overwhelming, so let's just assume it's true at this point. But
Yeah.
I hope this isn't the last acquisition that we see from Microsoft, and apparently it won't be. I mean, that's what the rumor is as well. So, before we move on, Rand, what other
Yes.
studios, realistically, do you think Microsoft could purchase on that sort of level?
I mean, they could buy tons of studios. The money's there. And I mean, Showing W just gave us a super chat, and he says, if Ballmer was still CEO, Phil would have gotten his $1 billion budget or more. Ballmer believed in crushing anyone who dared compete with Microsoft. I was never a fan of Ballmer. You ever see the interview where he laughed about the iPhone and said nobody would buy it? Ballmer wasn't as good as you remember him being. In fact, Microsoft stock prices are at like an all-time high under Satya. And
Never been better.
yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, Microsoft is different under Satya than it was under Ballmer. And I mean, I'm not sure Ballmer was 100% really behind Xbox either. I mean, because that whole train wreck of 2013 and what happened under his watch, and they all left. I don't know. I don't know. What their next acquisitions should be. I mean, it would have to be a good developer first and foremost. I mean, it would probably have to be an independent developer. Because I can't see Microsoft just going and buying somebody from somebody else. I would have said IO Interactive when Square Enix cut them loose, because I know you did see today that they announced Hitman 2, right? Coming
Yes.
out on November 13th. Can't wait. They would have been a good developer, they make quality
Oh, Ran.
games.
Speaking of IO, there's your game coming out after Red Dead. Because on last week's show, you said, "Why is everyone avoiding November?" But Hitman don't give a damn. They're right in there, man.
What, Hitman and Pokemons and
Hitman and Pokemon's together.
I'm assuming probably at this point Kingdom Hearts 3 will be there in November. But yeah, I mean, I would have liked to have seen, I don't know, maybe Visceral Games before they were shut down. I like maybe Arcane. Maybe they can get Arcane from Bethesda. I don't know. Like, there's a lot of great studios out there, but a lot of them are owned. As far as independent ones, geez, I can't really think of any off the top of my head. I mean, who would you say, Jazz? You're probably like, well, they should probably buy, you know what, Capcom, because I want more Monster Hunter World, my game of the year of 2018.
Dude, I would love if they bought Capcom just for the salt, you know. But I don't know. Capcom would be expensive, man. I mean, I know Capcom, like, it's not EA sort of level, but they have so much very marketable IP that's where their big value is, I think. So I think Capcom would be an expensive purchase. But there's a lot of smaller studios that I'd like Microsoft to see. Like, I always think about System Era, because they're actually based in Seattle, and System Era make Astroneer, which is Minecraft-like, could easily be a service type sort of game. And I really like Astroneer. It sort of fell out the spotlight a bit, and they announced this week that they're going to be at the Xbox. They're going to be at E3 for the Xbox sort of stuff, and I think they'll probably announce that they're coming out of game preview finally, because they had this big polish update which fixed a lot of the issues and stuff like that. So I'd like them to pick up some of these smaller devs and help fund their games to sort of become what they potentially could be with, you know, proper backing. So, you know, it's a struggle for indie devs, man, when they have to do their own PR and they have to, struggle with all the hiring and stuff like that, while often simultaneously developing the game. Where you get situations where there's developers also doing PR, also running finance, also running HR, and doing all this other stuff alongside doing the artwork for the game, coding the game, and stuff like that. So if they could, like, hand off some of those duties to Microsoft, it would be huge, and they could just focus on the game. They wouldn't have to worry about all that other stuff, you know. So that's personally where I think Microsoft could really benefit some smaller publishers, even if they just sort of offered, like, more on Idea Xbox, you know. Because I know they already offer some of that stuff, and they do offer PR under Idea Xbox like that. But,
Well, I see a lot of suggestions like Remedy. Remedy work that Microsoft worked for them in the past. They probably wouldn't want to work with them. Moon Studios, who make Ori, Studio MDHR, the ones who make Cuphead, Mistwalker, Obsidian, Ninja Theory, Deep Silver, THQ. I mean, those are all great studios. I just, I don't know if they fit the need for Microsoft. I think Playground fitted a need. It was like, they make our best exclusive, essentially, at least on Metacritic. They're making Fable. We need to lock the studio up. Maybe they really love what they're seeing about Fable, and they're like, we can't let this go. So it serves like a purpose. It serves a need. I don't know, but I've seen other people say that Microsoft is really out there trying to, court indie developers to get their games, with some sort of exclusivity for Xbox and stuff. So, it is what it is. We'll find out more about it at E3. Potentially, this could maybe close the show. I mean, I'm thinking of a way they could announce this, and announcing it at E3 would fit. I had said previously that I thought Cyberpunk 2077 would close the show. Maybe that's not true. Maybe this Playground Games thing happened faster than anticipated, And what if they come out on stage and are like, we heard you about first party, we showed off Forza Horizon, or maybe they closed on Forza Horizon 4 as the last game, and then they say
something, right? What if they're using some of the assets from Fable Legends to speed up development? Because those assets look good. I mean, at the time, Fable Legends, like, at the time, I remember I played Fable Legends in beta, and I remember at the time being amazed that it had 3D foliage, which sounds like really stupid now. But I mean, at the time, I was like, wow, the grass is 3D. It's not like these like pixelated flat JPEGs which wobble around and stuff. It looked like it was a stunningly gorgeous game. So who knows, man? I don't know.
I mean, all I'm saying is like maybe it's possible that the last game they show is Forza Horizon 4, and Phil comes on stage and be like, "We've heard you. I've said I want to build first party, and we're pleased to welcome Playground Games to Microsoft First Party Studio. You just saw a taste of what they're working on, but here's something else for the future." And you know, the lights dim, and here's a quick 1 minute like teaser for Fable, and they end on that acquisition and Fable. It's just an idea I was thinking about. But I mean, who knows? We'll find out in 4 days. I'm excited either way. I'm like, even though I've been pessimistic about their chances or what they're showing at E3, I'm always excited to watch the shows. You know what I mean? Like Sony said, here's our 4 games. I'm still excited to watch Sony's show. I'm still excited to watch Xbox's show and watch Square Enix's and Ubisoft's. Like, I get excited to watch all this stuff because I'll be playing all those games. Nintendo, who cares about? They're a zero. They're a nothing to me. And EA, I don't know. I'm just not a fan of EA lately. Anthem is going to have to prove. I mean, I don't know. Supposedly there's some long demo they're going to show of Anthem, 15 minutes or something. They're going to have to wow some people, and they're going to have to wow me. So we'll have to wait and see on that. But yeah, what's next? We're going to talk about Xbox single player games as a service and Matt Booty. What do you think?
Yeah,
about
you need to fill me in on some of this.
Yeah, so he did an interview where he talked about a whole bunch of stuff, like what they want to do with first party, what they want to do with their games, how he wants to run, you know, like be like run first party itself, like how his principles are, and things like that. But of course, you focused on the single player quotes because that is the one area that a lot of people will say Microsoft is lacking in, the strong AAA single player focused cinematic action narrative game, you know. And he went on to say that there will always be single player games with maybe 20 to 30 hours of gameplay. We love those kinds of games, and there's a place for those, but it's also certainly the case with the focus on watching, streaming, broadcasts, and esports that it's really important to think about the longevity of a game. It's really difficult for anybody to think about making a large-scale AAA game these days without having in mind a content and service plan that goes 1 to 2 years into the future out of the gate. Now, the issue I had with his statement is I don't have a problem with games as a service, right? I never really have. On the face value of what games as a service is. Like multiplayer game, I don't think every multiplayer game, just because you have a multiplayer game, means this is games as a service, right? I think maybe games as a service and multiplayer gets kind of intertwined with a lot of people. I don't have issues with games as a service like Overwatch or Rainbow Six Siege or PUBG. Hell, those 3 are some of my favorite games this gen. I've put over 100 hours in Overwatch. I've put over 100 hours into Rainbow Six. I'm at like 17 days on PUBG. I don't have an issue with games as a service like a lot of people do. A lot of people think games as a service, they think EA, they think loot boxes, they think predatory practices, you know? That's not necessarily the case. All I really want is amazing games, great games, really good games. I could care less what like business practices are behind it. I think Overwatch and all those games are great. And the talk about like State of Decay 2 and Sea of Thieves would be different, in my opinion, if the common consensus about those games were that they were great. If Sea of Thieves came out and the consensus was this game's like an 85 and it's a really good game, nobody would care that it was a games as a service game, a game that was going to be getting updates every year. All they would be talking about is that the game's really good. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I mean, nowhere in this article does he say that they aren't doing single player, but then nowhere in the article does he say they are doing single player.
There's another angle. There's another angle to this that a lot of people have missed as well. Is that single player games, and Phil's talked about this in other interviews too. And it's like single player games can become a game as a service if they're part of Game Pass, because Game Pass itself is a service. So it's like, yeah, you can have a single player game. Maybe you make it episodic, or maybe you release. Maybe you have like a full single player game, right? And then you release it episodically on Game Pass. So like you can either pay up front to get the full experience, or you pay like monthly to get episode 1 month, episode 2 another month, blah 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 blah. And yeah, maybe that would annoy some people, but it'd be a way to make these games more profitable in a world where, profit is God, So that's something Phil talked about before, is how Game Pass could give new life to these sorts of games, which apparently everyone loves, but nobody buys.
So the other kind of thing that I just kind of scratch my head about is this idea of that of the focus on watching, streaming, broadcast, and esports. Because in my opinion, not every game needs to be an esport, and not every game needs to be streamable. You know what I mean? Like, I find the idea that we need to create the game that streamers want to stream and that people want to watch streamers stream is, quite frankly, ridiculous. I remember the Sea of Thieves dev talking about this, where it was a goal of the game to make the game streamable. And I just find that, for lack of a better word, dumb. You know what I mean? Like, in my opinion, if you make a game good, if you make a game great, if you make a game outstanding, the game's gonna be streamable by default. Like, if you're having fun with the game and you're a streamer, people are going to watch. I mean, a lot of people don't necessarily watch the games being streamed. They tune in to watch their favorite streamer play the games that they're playing. You know what I mean?
I don't know, man. I mean, seriously, imagine if Dr. Disrespect stopped streaming PUBG and started streaming, God, I don't know, State of Decay, he'd lose concurrent views.
I mean, sure. I mean, he still would have a lot, but like, I don't know. Like, I just think the idea of just making a game, hey, like, let's just make this game streamable. I just think that's, I don't know. I find that just ridiculous. I mean, I understand Microsoft is also coming at it from a perspective like, we own a streaming service, we own Mixer, so it's in our best interest to maybe make our game streamable and watchable so they can be streamed on Mixer, so we can grow both things at the same time. It like kind of flows into one another. I don't know, man. There's
a lot of way. You hit the nail on the head when you said that. When people think of games as a service, they think of free-to-play, loot crates, predatory, time accelerators and mobile games and stuff like that. But games as a service doesn't necessarily have to mean that these days. I mean, any game that gets an update, ongoing updates, technically becomes a service. I mean, Surviving Mars, for example. Surviving Mars is a game as a service. You bought the game, and now they've given like 3 or 4 major content patches, which have added lots of new features to the game for free. And that's kept the game alive, and it's kept people talking about it. The Surviving Mars community on Reddit is still going and all that sort of stuff. You never hear about the game anymore, but it's still like, it still has its community and its fan base. And Paradox Interactive, who make a lot of games I like Stellaris and stuff like that, and City Skylines, they make games as a service almost exclusively. But like, nobody would ever associate Paradox with EA, because their service games are always like, you get a ton of stuff for free, and yeah, they sell expansion packs as well, but those expansion packs are often huge and game changing, and keeps the game going for years in some cases. Like Europa Universalis 4 has like literally 200 expansions or something like that, you know. And no one ever complains about that stuff. So the service game in 2018 is just a consequence of having a platform where you can deliver free updates. Because back in the 360 era, a game update costs like thousands of dollars, if I remember right. But now it's free because that's Steam has created that standard. So it's just a consequence now that we have games that get updated, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing. What's important is that a developer is consumer first in their approach, and we've seen Ubisoft in some ways pivot away from doing the whole loot crate thing. I remember when For Honor launched, and everyone was like, "Oh my god, if you want to get everything, you have to pay like hundreds of dollars, blah blah blah, and stuff like that." And the game didn't have dedicated servers; it was peer to peer. And more recently, we've seen Ubisoft come around a bit, and they were like, "Oh yeah, okay, we'll invest in dedicated servers. By the way, here's all these free content updates for the various games, and yeah, they still sell loot crates and stuff like that." But I think a lot of these companies are realizing that in order to build a community, a thriving community, which will get passionate about your game, stream your game, and market your game for you without having to go through stupid press people like me, you have to be consumer centric. So, games as a service, yes. Being a shitty company, no. So I think I would hope that Microsoft is going to take that sort of approach. And I do feel like at the start of this gen, there was a lot of growing pains with the whole what it meant to be games as a service, But
Yeah. I mean, okay, let me ask you this. Is Halo 5 a game as a service?
Yeah.
Okay, is
Hell
Gears of War 4?
Yes.
Okay, is Forza
Yes.
Motorsport 7? You think that is?
Yes.
Okay. But you don't think strictly that a game with single player and a game with multiplayer means the game's games as a service?
I don't know.
Or better
It
yet,
depends.
is Assassin's Creed Origins a games as a service?
Yes.
So what isn't a games as a service? Because in a lot
God
of
of
people,
War.
well, okay, God of War is just a game from it's a single player game with no plans of any post launch content.
But that's why God of War is so strange in this climate. And
I mean, is
fair
it? I
play
mean,
to
that's what Sony does, though, isn't that what they do?
fair play to Sony. For just shipping a game without any upsell attached to it. Fair play to them. I think it's amazing that they created God of War, sold it as it is, and it's like a work of art that elevates the medium. Um, but fair play to them. But the thing is, God of War would have been a better business, which is what Matt Booty's talking about. It would have been a better business if it had some way to get people to buy PSN Plus, if it had some form of DLC upsell. And I'm not saying that those are necessarily good things. I'm just saying if you're a businessman and you're employed to turn something into a business, you have to explore those things, And not only a few companies can take a game and make it as good as God of War without any upsell and have a viable business.
What if
attached to it.
what if the upsell is all the other exclusives that they put out? Like like the upsell is you get God of War and you really like it, and then you want to play their other games, and that's the upsell.
Yeah, maybe. It's but the thing is, getting to that level is tough, and really only Sony's capable of it that I'm aware of.
See,
Do you know any other companies that really can do what Sony does with its lineup without any upsell?
Bethesda does it a little bit.
No, they don't.
I mean, on some of their titles, they do.
DLC, horse armor, for God's sake.
True. Well, I mean, God of War. I mean, I don't know. Like a lot of Sony's games do feature DLC and expansions, and even their biggest titles like Uncharted and Last of Us have multiplayer. God of War was like a strange phenomenon where it was just the game. Even Horizon Zero Dawn had an expansion.
See, the smart thing what Sony's doing here is they are sort of obviously their upsell is getting a PlayStation console itself and being invested in that platform. And like when we do eventually move into next gen And you might see Sony pivot away, and they'll be like, okay, we've locked all these people in now. Now it's time to make some serious cash on them, because that would be the smart thing to do. And and since Sony's new CEO guy is sort of cloud centric, you can bet your ass they're exploring these sorts of monetization models. But
I gotta shout out the Ravenflow for some super chats. He says casuals respond to games as a their service, thus it thrives. Simple, which is true. If people didn't, people didn't buy and play the games and all that stuff, then they wouldn't be made. So exactly. And he also says Nintendo's games make third parties blush. I mean, Nintendo's games are what they are. I mean, I don't particularly care for them, but a lot of people do buy them. I mean, Mario Odyssey has sold like over 10 million copies. Now, Jez, I had a conversation with a few people that were saying that, in their opinion, games as a service is something that is supported for longer than a year. So games like Call of Duty isn't a games as a service, or games like Assassin's Creed Origins isn't a games as a service. Like
they're wrong, because there's
these
such a thing as
these are people working in the industry. Like this isn't just like random Joe Blow on Twitter or whatever.
It's fair enough for them to say that, but at the end of the day, there's such a thing as evergreen, right? People are still playing those Call of Duty games, and they're still buying the map packs for the old Call of Duty game, And yeah, maybe those games aren't getting any more content after a year, but they're pretty much still selling them after a year, and the servers are still on, which costs money, and they are using the money from selling the content to power those servers. How is that not a service? It's in the clues in the name. This is like the whole loot box thing again, where it's not gambling.
Yeah,
but it's like games of service is a dirty word now. It's like it's become this dirty word. But I'm sorry, but if you have an online game that's powered by online servers that provide a service, and you monetize the players using your servers to provide that service, even after you've stopped selling new stuff after a year, it's still a service game.
Right. But, Matt Booty went on to talk specifically about their franchise, and this is the next thing I wanted to talk to you about, because he goes on to say that we're very lucky to have a number of established franchises. When you think about Minecraft, Halo, and Forza, each has over a decade or almost a decade of foundation underneath them. We need to use those franchises as a home base from which we can expand. That strength lets us branch out and takes risk with them, says Booty, possibly dropping a hint of what may be next for the studios and making it clear that even if the company announces a new Halo, much like the campaignless Black Ops 4, it may not exactly resemble its predecessors. Now, I wanted to talk about this because there have been plenty of rumors about Gears of War spinoffs, or recently Brad Sims talking about Halo Infinity, a Halo game going to be announced at this year's E3 that's not Halo 6. What do you think about that idea of taking these core franchises that have been around for a while and trying to branch them off into different genres, instead of just saying, you know what, we're going to do a Gears XCOM game, that's great, but we know it would be better making a new IP that's kind of like an XCOM game, instead of just putting the Gears franchise on it. And before you answer that, I want to shout out to 663 people watching, 666. So this is the show of the devil. Make sure you hit that like button, as I only see 161 likes. What's up? It's free.
Oh, Rand,
click that like button.
Hit that like button. Hit that like button or dislike.
I mean, get it at least over 200 right now. I mean, aim for 300. If you're enjoying the show, of course. If you're enjoying it, if you're not, then spam dislike, I guess.
Yeah. Rand, make a mental note of that topic, because I want to talk about Crackdown 3 right now.
Okay, let's talk about Crackdown 3 then.
Keep a mental note of that topic though, because we will get back to that.
Okay, because I still think it's important to talk about, because it's specifically about their franchises. So Crackdown 3, Kotaku last night put out an article by Jason Schreier, saying that he spoke to two people with that know of Microsoft's release plans, and that Crackdown 3 has been delayed to 2019. And that's pretty much the story. It's something that me and you have talked about on previous podcasts.
Yes.
Something that I said in my prediction video that I felt Crackdown was delayed. But I feel like something's going on here because you wanted to move to this. So what's on your mind?
Well, Rand. Well, Rand. This is a first for this show.
Are we breaking an exclusive?
We're breaking the exclusive in the middle of the show.
Wow. Okay. So what do you got? What do you got?
Crackdown 3 will launch in February 2019, as per Microsoft spokesperson who just contacted me.
Really?
Yes. And I've just published that article, and I'm just about to tweet it out. So, you heard it here first, guys. The new launch date of Crackdown 3 is February 2019.
So, wow, I don't know how to say. We had Mikey Barr on the show last year, and now we have Jez breaking release dates for Crackdown 3. So, February of next year. Now, I thought May, but February is beginning of the year. So, where's this article on Windows Central? There we go.
I just published it. I'm just going to tweet that on WC Gaming Tweets. Oh, this is fun. I was writing that off the show. So
yeah.
Want to read out the statement?
Yeah, just go ahead. Go ahead and read it out. This is your exclusive.
I know, you read it out because I'm doing tweets.
All right, I'll read it out then. I'll go to your article and I will read it out. So Microsoft's upcoming open world shooter Crackdown 3 has been in development for quite a while, and fans have been worried about the state of the game following various rumors and general radio sounds from Microsoft. Today, Microsoft provided us a statement to say that the game is now targeting a February 2019 launch date and will focus on adding extra polish and features to create the game the fans have been hoping for. Quote, our fans' response to the signature antics and explosive gameplay of Crackdown 3 has been incredible. To ensure we deliver the experience they deserve, Crackdown 3 will be launching in February 2019. We look forward to sharing more on Crackdown 3 this Sunday during the Xbox E3 2018 briefing. End quote.
Yep,
there you go. There you go. So let's talk about everything that surrounds this. There's a lot to take in. Here's a game that was supposed to come out in 2017, got delayed to 2018, was supposed to come out in spring of this year, got delayed to 2019. This is a game that was revealed 4 years ago at this point in the Microsoft conference of disaster known as E3 2014, where they also revealed Scalebound, Fable Legends, and Phantom Dust, all which were eventually canceled. Jez, I'm kind of at a like.
You're at a loss.
Well, no, because I made the video yesterday. And look, I'd rather have the game be delayed and improved upon than releasing in its current state. I'd rather have the game come out and be better or great or good instead of just being okay. Because clearly Microsoft realizes that they can't release the game, which is why the game has been delayed, right? So they can't release it. And instead of canceling it like Scalebound and Fable Legends, they've decided to fund more money into the game to make it better. So hopefully when it comes out in February, it's at least a minimum of like an 85 on Metacritic. Because after all these delays, I hope the game's really good. But at the same time, it speaks on to maybe Sumo Digital wasn't the best choice about who to bring back Crackdown 3 to life. Maybe the people who pick out the developers need to, I don't know, do better research about who they are. You know, like there's a lot to say here. Like, while I'm happy on one hand, it's getting the time and money it needs to be a better game. On the other hand, it's like maybe you should have picked a better developer in the first place and you wouldn't have had these problems. And then, of course, there's the opposite thing where it's like, wow, this really does make Xbox's 2018 not, like Now you have less exclusives because it was just Sea of Thieves and State of Decay and Crackdown. Now it's those 2 games which are already out, and they literally don't have anything else for the rest of the year. At least, of course, not yet until we find out about it on the 3rd. So, man.
The thing is, man,
Well,
people.
hold on. I want to
Sorry.
shout out Chill Greg for the super chat and Lady Foxfire for the super chat. She says, "Awesome, thank you for the news, Jez." So, all right, what do you say? What you got to say? We'll bounce ideas back and forth here, but
Well, the thing is, man, I'm personally of the camp that a delay is always good. You know, you get people who say delays are good when it benefits me, delays are bad when it makes the company I don't like look bad. I think if a game can be improved via a delay, it should be. You know, I'm firmly in that camp. And yeah, it makes Microsoft's first party look sparse. But you have to remember, man, this year's holiday season is absolutely rammed. And maybe you can say, does anyone seriously think it would have been better to release a buggy, potentially unfinished game now, or wait until after, you know, put some more polish on it, maybe add some more features and that sort of stuff? You know, why would anyone ever want a game that's in a bit of a weaker state than it could be? I don't understand that mentality. And you can say whatever you want about Sumo Digital and all that sort of stuff, but at the end of the day, it's not like anyone was like sitting there thinking my entire gaming like plans for 2018 revolves around this one game. You got Battlefield 5 coming out, Red Dead Redemption 2 coming out, you know, the new Call of Duty Battle Royale coming out, and all this other stuff coming out like in the holiday season, where presumably Crackdown 3 could have been delayed into, or it can release a little bit later and actually have a chance to maybe win new fans and stuff. Because we have to remember, Crackdown as a franchise has been dormant for a really long time. You know, go out and ask anyone who isn't a core fan of Xbox if they've heard of Crackdown. I've never played a Crackdown game, and I know that especially my younger siblings, they won't have heard of Crackdown. Crackdown 3 is an opportunity for Microsoft to introduce the franchise to a new generation of gamers. And if that first impression is a negative one, that franchise is probably not going to survive. And the people I've spoken to who, you know people at Sumo, and obviously, you know, again, this is second-hand information, but apparently from what I've heard is that we talked about this before, Microsoft wants this to be on the same level as Gears and Halo. I want it to be up there as a franchise that people will buy an Xbox for. But when the franchise has been sort of out of the limelight for so long, you don't make a first impression. It could be bad. So at the end of the day, there's so many games coming out. Third party games, which ain't great for console warring. They ain't great for, like, you know, saying, oh, we've got these epic games, you know, and tweeting out like my game's better than yours and all that stuff. But I'd rather have a better game. That's my opinion.
well, yeah. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna screw up this guy's name. Pro Porn Prawn for the super chat. He says February means they could give us player alpha beta for E3, maybe for Game Pass subscribers. And my first thought when you said February was that Sony announced also Days Gone for February of next year. And people in chat are saying, do they really want to release Crackdown 3 to compete with Days Gone? And
Maybe they do.
Well, here's the thing. I don't really think it's like Microsoft, in my opinion, is clearly focused on the option of Game Pass, right? I think that is what drives them. I've been told release schedules have been changed so they can kind of get a staggered games here and there to keep people subscribed for the year. So it's not so much like where previously, it would be in competition with Days Gone. Obviously, you release 2 games to similar fan bases, a PlayStation, Xbox. People have both those consoles. Some people only have enough money to buy one. But the idea here is that Microsoft needs content for Game Pass. So it's kind of supersedes the competition. Microsoft needs that title in that category. And it's not about competing with Days Gone. It's about trying to provide content for their consumers. You know what I mean? Like, so I think they've kind of moved past that idea of competing like directly between titles when it's about trying to grow Game Pass. Maybe I'm thinking about that wrong, but from people I've talked to, like Game Pass is extremely important and a vital part of what Xbox is trying to do in the future. You know what I mean? So I mean, I'm with you here. I'm with you with the fact that I want the game to be better. Clearly, Microsoft thinks it needs to be better because they're delaying it again. But it also makes me wonder what happened. How has this game been delayed twice? You know what I mean? Like, this is a game that had a release date.
Dude, Witcher 3 got delayed like 3
I know,
times.
but Witcher 3 didn't have, like, Witcher 3 wasn't on stage and had a release date that said November 7th, 2017. You know what I mean? Like, this was a game that was supposed to come out, Jez. It had a release date. I'm just...
I don't know this for sure, right? I mean, this isn't something I've heard. This is literally something this is like what I feel like. I think like last summer there was this really poor presentation of Crackdown 3, and I really think what happened last summer, like when they showed off the game with a bunch of celebrities and YouTube influencers who they didn't care about Microsoft, they didn't care about Crackdown, they just wanted to get some cheap laughs and get some clicks and stuff like that. And the problem is, Crackdown is a game for the core audience, right? The core Xbox fan who is a fan of the franchise, and they portrayed Crackdown in a way that made it look terrible. And you know, I'm not saying they were wrong to have done that. I'm just saying like Microsoft probably saw that and then they took stock of the situation and probably thought we can either release a game that isn't up to fans' expectations, or we can really try to make this something special and elevate it. And Microsoft isn't doing this out of the goodness of their hearts, obviously, because they're paying Sumo Digital money to basically fund their studio while they make this game. And you know, are Microsoft going to make their money back on this game? Who knows, you know? But every month it gets delayed, it eats into the game's margins. So it's like, what do? Do they either piss off the core fans who this game is basically for? Because no wider gamers have never heard of Crackdown, especially not the fact this is the third Crackdown. You know, 75. I bet like maybe more than 90% of current day Xbox gamers don't even know what Crackdown is. I would not be surprised if that was the case. You know, all the little kiddies playing Fortnite and stuff like that. You know, there's an opportunity there to sort of make it something more than it was. And I think Microsoft are going for it. And like you say, maybe this is indicative of Microsoft's attitude now, where it's like, rather than just ship games in this sort of clunky state, let's try and elevate them up if there's like room to do that. You know, so
right. I mean,
I don't know.
But you know, like I mentioned before, I also think maybe the situation could have been eliminated if they picked a better developer to make the game in the first place. You know what I mean? Like,
you say that like they can just walk into a supermarket and just pick a developer off a tree.
I know, but I'm just saying, like,
sometimes you can't.
I know sometimes you can't, and you got to deal with the cards that are given to you. But I like, it's one of those things. Like I said, I'm happy it's delayed because I hopefully it gets the care and attention it deserves to be a better game. But at the same time, you can't overlook the fact that it's been delayed twice. It had a solid release date in 2017, now delayed to 2019. And yeah, that speaks volumes to Microsoft's ambition to make the game better for gamers in the long run instead of just canceling it. But then it also speaks to like the type of the studios you're trying to do business with that aren't your own. You know, maybe this whole thing could have been avoided if you gave the game a bigger budget initially and hired a better studio. That's all I'm trying to say here. You know what I'm like?
For sure. But it's like, who do you give it to? You know,
I don't know. Like this. See,
give me a solution.
This was my problem with Xbox, and it's been this way since last gen. Their reliance on second party to do their games for them instead of having their first party. So yes, they don't have a first party studio to do Crackdown, and maybe them buying Playground Games in San Diego studio, it fixes that. You know what I mean? So my question is, like, you say, well, who should have done it? I said it should have been one of their first party studios. because then you at least could rely on them doing it.
But they didn't have a studio to do it.
And that's my problem with Xbox is that they don't have the studios and that they
don't have a time machine, Rand.
I know.
They don't have a time machine.
What I've always said from the beginning, it all predates to the back to the 360 when people made bad decisions and there was poor management and poor planning. To get in this situation that we're in now, you have to go and chase the roots of the problem. And the roots of the problem extend all the way back then. And I know you don't have a time machine, but I'm just saying, you know, like, and I don't want to like come across like, oh, this is like I'm being super negative. I'm just looking at it from all aspects. I'm happy that it's gonna get better, but at the same time, it's like let's not have this happen again, okay? Like let's not have it ever again to any other game that Microsoft releases. That's my point. It's like
delays are always going to happen, man.
True, but
in software development. There are just sometimes there's just things that happen, you know. And I don't want to sound like I'm damage controlling it. I'm playing devil's advocate for the sake of having an interesting conversation, but you've got to see it from just the other perspective here. Sometimes things happen. You can't ever have a piece of software that doesn't have any bugs in it. You can't ever have a game studio as big as Microsoft that doesn't have any delays. And I think ultimately that the real mess up here is A, showing the game off too early, B, announcing a launch date at all, and C, well, there isn't a C because the A and B was so great. So I love you, man. I love you, man. You're a good guy, man. You're a good guy.
I'm just saying, like, I don't want, because Crackdown, people wanted Crackdown for a while. People really like the franchise. It has its fans, and every single year it just seems they get disappointed. So it's like, I don't want to see this happen to another game. You know, you learn from your mistakes and you grow from them. You fall down and you pick yourself back up.
What if this is Microsoft learning from the mistakes of putting, you know, other games in such a crowded lineup in the fall season? Because I remember Microsoft being criticized for releasing Gears of War when they did.
Well, okay, yeah. So let's take a look at that. Like, this game had maybe two, like, in my opinion, like one release window, and that's essentially July and August, right? Because once September comes around, it's Forza Horizon. They're not going to release their game at the same time Forza Horizon because you got to think Game Pass. You got to, like, that's like the mantra going forward. So you can't do September. You can't do October, clearly, because there's Black Ops 4, there's Battlefield 5, there's Red Dead Redemption 2. So you have July and August, and if you truly want the game to be something special and not just killed, you can't release it in November either. So essentially, if it wasn't ready for July, then you have to push it to next year.
Pretty much. That's the way I see it. I mean, at the end of the day, Microsoft's spending money to try and bring this game out and make it better. I can't see a downside to that personally. When like my backlog is the way it is, I mean, the people seriously have so few games to play that they really needed Crackdown to launch now. I don't think so. So like the people who are really upset about this are people who probably weren't even going to buy the game anyway and just want to, like, you know, have something to complain about. There's no, in my mind, there's no situation where a game delay is a bad thing. Not with the industry as saturated as it is. So that's my take. I'm really looking forward to seeing the fruits of it, though. I mean, I'm just hopeful that these delays are, you know, worth something, and that we can, like, and like you said, let's be more cautious about when we announce launch dates. Let's be more cautious about, you know, showing games 6 years before they're ready. But, you know, it happens in the industry. I mean,
and also,
look at Final Fantasy 15.
Also, I want to speak directly to my Xbox brethren. Remember the jokes you made about, like, Sony delaying games? Yeah, well, maybe you shouldn't make those jokes anymore because not a good look, especially when Crackdown is a game that has basically 5 years of development. You can't call the PlayStation the delay station and
People
then look.
Do that?
Oh yeah, dude, that was a huge thing earlier in this gen. People called the PlayStation the delay station all the time. I'm saying you can't say that and then like you say everything's good on Xbox's side. You know what I mean? Like, we all know delays happen. Days Gone was delayed for a year. or delayed till 2019. Like Crackdown's been delayed twice. Delays happen all the time. Like Uncharted 4 was delayed. People ran with that, and sometimes you got to drink your own medicine. And when you say stuff like that, karma, man, comes back to bite you in the ass. And clearly,
Days Gone getting delayed is a good thing.
Games getting delayed. I'd rather have the game be delayed and be really good instead of a game coming out and being mediocre. So Days Gone getting delayed potentially makes it a better game. Awesome. Crackdown 3 getting delayed to next year to be a better game. Great. Like, I'd much rather have that than have a situation of Scalebound canceled. Never play it. You know what I mean?
You
never play Scalebound. Like, I would much rather have like that game just delayed until it was ready to come out, and then cool. Even if Scalebound came out and it was just a mediocre game, another 67 Metacritic, at least it came out and you got to play it instead of like never being able to. Got some super chats I need to read out. Ravenflow says, "I want Halo Dance Revolution, Jez." Maybe you can pitch that one.
It's really funny, right? Because I'm back in the UK right now, my parents' place, because I had to visit England for stuff, and like I was looking at stuff to sell, and I found in a drawer I've got like over here the original Xbox. There was an original Xbox Dancing Stage Unleashed, OG Xbox exclusive with a DDR mat. I actually own that. Maybe I should like live stream that or something.
Yeah.
Naked.
And also he also said we can dance to Druid music. So
what?
You know what's funny? We were doing the podcast live when Crackdown was delayed last year to 2018. Yeah, we were doing the podcast live right during the middle of it when it got delayed. I remember
not only that, but this podcast had 666 viewers.
Yes.
So maybe we've cursed Crackdown.
And now we were doing it live when Microsoft confirmed the delay again and gave a release date for it. So there's something about this podcast and Crackdown 3 that is inexplicable and unexplainable.
I don't know. It's ghosts, man.
It is. It's ghosts. So you want to go back to Matt Booty's comments about Halo and Gears and all that stuff, since we've ran this Crackdown thing. We looked at it from all different sides and angles.
Let's do some booty talk.
Booty. Yeah, so back to what he said about their first. So he says, we're lucky to have a number of established franchises. When you think about Minecraft, Halo, and Forza, each is over a decade or almost a decade of foundation under them. We need to use those franchises as a home base from which we can expand. That strength lets us branch out and takes risks as them, says Booty, possibly dropping a hint of what may be next for the studios and making it clear that even if the company announces a new Halo, much like the campaignless Black Ops 4, it may not exactly resemble its predecessors. So the idea that Microsoft is going to expand their biggest franchises into other genres, does that excite you? I mean, what do you think about that? Because one of the other issues people have with Microsoft is that they don't really create new IP, especially not new AAA IP. And some people would see maybe a Gears XCOM game or a Gears Full Spectrum Warrior game or a Halo spinoff game as just kind of a risk-adverse move instead of creating a new IP in that genre instead. You know what I mean?
I'm in a rock and a hard place for this, right? Because Nintendo, they bank a lot on nostalgia, right? And they've been building up these nostalgic franchises for decades, and maybe that's not possible anymore. But there is value in building up a franchise, expanding a franchise, winning hardcore fans to a franchise, because they will market your game for you. They'll build communities and fan art and celebrate the game and fall in love with it, and there aren't that many franchises that can do that. So one of the when I was starting out early and I had my first ever conversation with Aaron Greenberg, I actually said to him, I would love to see you guys bring back more classic franchises, because I think the nostalgia factor is something I'm interested in, and I specifically said I specifically talked about Age of Empires because, like, Age of Empires is the first game I ever played online, and I've got a huge amount of nostalgia for that franchise. And when they announced Age 4, I was like out of my mind. And like we talked about it last week when they announced Killer Instinct, and I was just like, it was hugely impactful for me just because of the nostalgia factor, and there is value there, but at the same time, I think you need a balance because like you can't just rely on the past. Sometimes you have to push forward. So I think like with anything, I would say I'd like to see a balance, and they have sort of shown that and they are willing to look at old past franchises. Like they're bringing back Age of Empires with Relic, who are like really they have RTS expertise, and and there's rumors about Perfect Dark and all that sort of stuff. But like you, man, I'd love to see them innovate because that's something that Microsoft hasn't done that much. Like it almost feels like since Quantum Break, which maybe didn't innovate in the best way, they've almost gotten like cold feet about taking those big financial risks. I don't know, man. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm listening. I mean,
sorry.
I wanted to let you speak. I just
I just heard you rummaging around, and I wondered if like you'd had to answer the door.
No. I would have said something. I just, I mean, like, there's the rumor of Halo Infinity, right? Which maybe is a multiplayer game. My dream is like it's an RPG like Mass Effect set in the Halo universe. Like, wouldn't that be badass to take Halo that way? And the incredible lore and the world that does have the universe that you can explore and make a Mass Effect styled RPG in that. I mean, like, as much as I don't really care for RTSs, Halo Wars is cool. It's an expansion of the genre, but at the same time, Halo is an old bag, and so is like, so's Gears of War. And I would much rather see Microsoft create a new IP that is an RPG from like scratch instead of just being like, look, we have these big franchises, let's just move them out and turn them into other genres. You know what I mean? Like, I understand new IPs are incredibly risky. Sometimes they work really well, and sometimes nobody cares. But part of me is just like, are people really going to care about a Gears XCOM game anyways? Are they going to care about an XCOM game, period? Even if it...
Dude, I don't care, man. If they announce Gears XCOM, E3's over for me. That's it. I don't care about any other game. I might be the only person, but... people like XCOM, dude.
I mean, I know they do. Or the idea that, like, a Halo game launching without a single player... that
idea terrifies me.
Oh, but that's the thing. Like, that was my issue with Black Ops 4. It's like, here you have a game removing a core component of the series, and people applauding it and being like, I'll still give you $60. And then like other publishers see that it was successful, if it was successful, and then they copy it. It's like, well, we don't need to do this game with a single player. We can remove it. And then like Halo removing the campaigns, like, well, like what? Like, I mean, maybe if it's not Halo 6, sure. And if Halo Infinity is some kind of Halo Battle Royale game or multiplayer, then maybe that fits. But like, I'm kind of curious to see what like the future is going to hold in 6 years, or what type of games we're going to get. The direction of the studios, because as much as I do I think Phil's going to do exactly what he said he's going to do, because he's a man of his word and he has never lied to me about it. Part of me does wonder what direction and what type of games they will make. You know what I mean? Like, are we going to get...
They always get criticized about having it be in the shooter box. What kind of games would you like them to? What kind of games would you like them to make?
What type of games would I like them to make?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not saying you need to copy Sony whatsoever. The thing is, I just want them to make great games. I don't really care what the games are. If it's a great Halo game, great. If it's a great third-person adventure game, even better. Like, in my opinion, they just need to be great games, no matter the genre they're in. And I feel lately, and this is just my personal opinion, so like everybody in chat, don't like jump down my throat. I feel like lately Xbox has just been releasing mediocre to okay titles. You know what I mean?
That's fair.
So it's not like I have a laundry list of games in my mind that I would love Microsoft to go and create. In my mind, I just want those games to be innovative, and just really fucking good. you know? As for what they can be, that's up for them to make and decide and to plan and to develop and code for. I'm not a game developer. Like, when people, we had this conversation last night. It was like, hey, if you could take any franchise in the world and turn it into a battle royale game, what would it be? And I sat there and I was thinking about it, and I was like, well, personally, for me, I would love to see a Halo battle royale game. Why? Yeah, because, and I'll explain why. Because
People would
Halo,
be mad.
well, I'm sure they would be, but look, I love Halo. Halo is my absolute favorite franchise. Halo, in my opinion, could work in battle royale. It has all the hallmarks of a battle royale. Like, you have decent movement speed, you have big maps, you have all the different gun types, you have vehicles. Like you could build one, right? And other people were saying, "Oh, I don't think so. Maybe this other type of game." And I mentioned, "Well, what if some dev had a really good idea for a Gears of War battle royale game?" And everybody said, "Oh no, Gears of War couldn't make it." But I'm like, "But what if they did? Like it's up to the developer to make the game and change it to suit it to the needs. Like, just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're the ones who make the games. They're the ones who have to decide the things. Maybe it's possible because they're the creative artists behind it, that they could make it something special. And that's all I really want. Like, I just want great games. I don't really care if it's a first person shooter or if it's a third person action game or if it's something else. I just want something that's amazing. I don't necessarily think that's too much to ask. Maybe amazing is too much to ask for, because games come out all the time that are just good or great. I just want great titles. You know what I mean? That aren't necessarily your core. Like, I know Forza Horizon 4 is going to be great already. I don't even have to play the game. I already know it's going to be a great racer. I just kind of want everything else that they do to be great as well, or at least have the care and attention they give to Forza Horizon. That, like, if they just gave, like take State of Decay 2, for example. What if they gave the money in the budget that they give to Forza Horizon and gave that to Undead Labs? Like, how, like, what kind of state would State of Decay 2 be in? Would it be much better? I don't know. I mean, possibly. Would more people be able to enjoy it then? Potentially. I don't know. That's kind of my thing.
I just want XCOM Gears, man.
Yeah.
It's perfect. It's cover based. There's different all the different weapons in the game and the monsters, dude. It'd be amazing. It's perfect. I really hope it's true. I don't care if nobody else wants it except for me. I want it for me, just me. And also, it needs to have a fishing minigame.
Well, yeah,
Dude, I should be a game designer.
You should be. I'm just saying, it's hard for me to define what I want, because I don't really know what I want until I play what the developers give me. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm not creative. How many times have I come up to you and be like, Jazz, is this look good? Is this thumbnail look good? Because I don't know, because I don't have a creative bone in my body. I couldn't explain to you what looks good and what doesn't look good, or how to create something, or whatever.
Dude, you do yourself wrong, man. I've seen your YouTube thumbnails. They are most pleasing to the eye.
Yeah. I mean, but that's what I'm saying. It's hard for me to express what I want, because I don't really know what I want until I get it. And that's not necessarily my job to tell people that I would like this. It's just like, give me something that, I don't know. Maybe I'm rambling and not making much sense. But it's just hard for me to kind of express the games that interest me. I mean, obviously, clearly, single player interests me. I love God of War. I love Detroit. But then also at the same time, I enjoy playing PUBG. I'm enjoying playing Onrush. I enjoy playing small indies. So there's a large collection of games I do enjoy playing. And I hope, with all this that going on with Microsoft gearing up for next generation, and all these different things that the games are going to live up to what I want. I don't know. Maybe I'm saying this wrong, but shout out to Desaga 13 for the super chat. He says it's the same strategy as Nintendo. Microsoft can do it, as well as let's see, someone else. Amit Sen says, Rand saying, "Be the behemoth you are." That's somebody else.
I like that statement. Be the behemoth you are.
That's somebody else's statement who's been saying it for a while. And I don't want to rip them off, but he
Who is
does say it quite a bit. That's Next Gen 720 Zaire.
Oh,
says,
that's a good statement, and it's interesting to describe Microsoft as a behemoth because they really are. And the thing, one of the biggest things that since covering Microsoft and being interested in what Microsoft are doing, because they're a behemoth, they take such a long time to turn around. Like turning them around is like, it's like effort, man. And like restructuring the company this year so radically, like they have, it's gonna take time, And but I really am optimistic in Microsoft's future plans now for the first time than I have been since they killed my phone. And I'm bitter about my phone, Rand.
Yeah, I know.
I'm bitter about that phone.
Yeah, my DMs, you guys will see my DMs. Jez is just complaining about Windows Phone all the time in it.
I am optimistic. This year is later this year is going to be awesome for Microsoft in different ways, and they've got the whole ARM stuff going on the Windows side, and I'm excited about that. And Satya Nadella is turning the company around in lots of different ways. And the fact that late last year they put Phil and Xbox gaming at Microsoft as its own division. And it's not a side project of Windows. It's not part of the devices team. Gaming at Microsoft is its own entity for the first time in the company's history. And having direct access to make pitches, to finance, and, explain to Satya Nadella, this is what we need to do. And Phil has proven that he knows what he's talking about. I think Xbox fans are in for a really nice time the next few years. And, it boils down to like you say, it always boils down to the games at the end of the day. I mean, the platform stuff's going to be great and all that sort of stuff, but I think it's going to take time as well. It's going to be slow going, but I think like the future is bright. They're in a good position moving forward, and I'm optimistic.
All right. So somebody in chat, I forgot the person's name, wants us to talk about Alexa being integrated with Xbox and what exactly that means.
Oh right, so this is funny because so was it last week or this week? I lose track of the leaks at this point, but recently we leaked that Google Assistant and Alexa support are coming to Xbox. So what that means is you'll be able to, if you've got an Amazon Echo, you will be able to install an app on your Amazon Echo that lets you directly connect. Well, not directly. I think it goes over the internet. But you'll be able to connect your Amazon Echo or your Google Assistant device, or even a phone with the apps installed. You'll be able to connect those to your Xbox. So you'll be able to say, Alexa, turn on my Xbox, and basically get that Connect functionality back. That's all it means. So like where Microsoft no longer sells their own microphones for the Xbox One for Cortana, they're letting other companies step in and do it instead. So that's also another. That's something that Steve Ballmer wouldn't have done. Let other companies pitch in where Microsoft isn't doing that great. And we're starting to see the first PCs support Alexa instead of Cortana as well. Microsoft totally screwed up Cortana.
So
Cortana has no future.
Can Microsoft say, Alexa, make me an exclusive game?
Yes, they can. And then that's how you get Skynet, Rand.
Yes.
That's how you get Skynet.
So the Ravenflow says, what cell phone game is coming next for Xbox? Miami Street.
Miami Street.
Miami Street.
If I do get an executive interview at E3, that's gonna be my first question. What the hell is Miami Street? Why does this game exist? Tell me your secrets. That game is just really confusing. I don't get it.
Yeah, it is weird that Microsoft was kind of first into the whole let's have a device that listens and to everything that you do, right? And then nobody really wanted it because it was bundled in with the gaming thing. And then
Oh,
Amazon,
and also it's NSA, you know.
right? And then Amazon basically and Google, right? Because I think Google has one, create the same thing, and people like, I love talking to my Alexa. I love having this thing like listen in and record all my shit for Amazon to sell me more stuff. It's like oh wow, like look at the change in consumer. Because people with the Connect were like so upset that the NSA and the government was going to spy on them and shit, and Microsoft was going to collect all their data, and then everyone was cool with Amazon. Like, yep, love my Alexa, love talking to it. Like, I don't know if you saw that story, but there was this woman who was having this conversation with her husband about like what decks they wanted to build for their apartment, and Alexa recorded the conversation and set the conversation to her coworker, like on her phone. And then like the coworker called her back and be like, "Yeah, Alexa just sent me your conversation." And they're like, "What?" So then they called up Amazon, and Amazon confirmed that it did happen, and they apologized for it, like, "Oh, that's not supposed to happen." Blah 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 blah. And she was like, "Well, I would like to get rid of these Alexas. Can I get a refund?" And Amazon's like, "Lol, nope." Oh man.
I've got an Amazon Echo, and I love it, and I know full well it's listening to me, and it's probably got sound files of me saying all sorts of horrible things, just like my Surface Book has probably got pictures of me signing in using the face recognition in really compromising positions, and God knows what Connect's got on me. It's like you either just give your privacy away, or you never use anything, because like we tried convenience, we tried our privacy for convenience now, and I trust Microsoft to keep that stuff more secret than Amazon, but at the end of the day, Microsoft's not offering that functionality. I love having Alexa just to ask her dumb questions like, "What day is it?" Because sometimes I just don't know.
Is Xbox 2 today? Am I supposed to do a podcast with Rand? No.
Seriously, I've missed podcasts just simply because I didn't know what day it was. So
yeah.
I like having like, or just something dumb like, "What time is it?" Or, you know, "Will I need an umbrella today?" You know. But the thing I miss the most about Connect is literally being able to like lie in bed and just be like, "Xbox play," or "Xbox go to BBC iPlayer," or "Xbox go to Netflix," you know, and not even have to move my arms, because that's how lazy I am. And
Yeah.
hopefully the Alexa stuff will bring that back. Apparently that is apparently going to be announced at E3.
I can't
It's funny
imagine it.
'cause I've heard because someone leaked that to me. Not a Microsoft source, but someone, you know, someone leaked that to me, and then a long time ago, and then like we got like in our tips box, someone was saying Google Assistant support was coming to Xbox, and I was like, no way would Google Assistant support come to Xbox. Google hates Xbox and Microsoft and stuff like that, but there it is in that screenshot. So Microsoft, sometimes you just, you know, things can happen that you just don't expect. You know?
And you know what things are going to happen? Us taking questions.
Yay!
Look at that segue. So if you guys have any questions, make sure to type them in chat. Me and Jez will make sure to answer a couple of these before we get out of here. And you know, yeah, we had a lot of people. I think we had over 700. We got a whole bunch of likes. We even almost about to hit 300. That'd be fantastic. And I need to remove this question mark on my title. Crackdown 3 delayed to 2019 question mark. I'll have to remove that later and actually just make it a declarative statement. Face wants to know, Rand and Jez, do you think Microsoft learned from their mistakes this gen and won't repeat them going into next gen? I think so. I mean, it depends on what you. All right, so we're each going to have different opinions on what the mistakes are. I think the mistakes were launching a underpowered system as more expensive than your competitor and trying to change literally everything about how people own games. If we're talking about those mistakes, I fully expect that to not happen for next generation. So I expect a powerful device that is priced appropriately with the PlayStation 5. So I guess it depends. Like maybe I still think Microsoft will heavily depend on second parties, but at the same time, it looks like they're building up their first party stables, so maybe there's less reliance on second parties. So I think maybe they're learning from that. I don't know. What do you think, Jez?
What was the question again? Sorry, someone messaged me on
Do you think
Slack.
Microsoft learned from their mistakes this gen and won't repeat them for next generation?
Oh, definitely. I think I you can expect that Microsoft have done like all sorts of internal investigations and case studies on what went wrong. You know, at every level, they're probably like examined what went wrong from a PR standpoint, what went wrong from a systemic standpoint. You know, and every single level, and also like they trusted certain other companies to also follow this DRM model who didn't follow the DRM model despite having signed contracts to say they would do so. So they won't be making that mistake again.
Right.
So there are sort of, you know, they came into last gen from a position of basically arrogance. You know, they're like, yeah, we're 360, we're the best, we got the best online infrastructure, blah blah blah. I think like in that sort of era of Bulmer going out and Satcher coming in, Microsoft has learned to be a lot more humble, I think, and become more consumer oriented, and hopefully we'll see that emerge in the next Xbox as well.
Right. Loveboat Gopher wants to know when do you plan on starting Persona 5 or Yakuza Kiwami? Damn you, Gopher. Damn you. He's always on me for that. I don't know. Maybe one of these days. I don't know when I'm going to start those games. I don't even know what I'm going to be playing tomorrow. Don't know when I'll be starting Persona 5 or Yakuza. Road D wants to know, what is Microsoft going to show on the E3 presentation? I don't know. I guess
Fishing system.
tune into E3 and we'll be watching it. Everybody will be watching at the same time, and we'll all learn.
We're gonna do a reaction show, right?
Yeah, we're gonna do a show afterwards. I mean, you can expect Forza Horizon 4, a Halo game, a Gears game, Ori, and the Will of the Wisps. Other than that, it's all just kind of a crapshoot. Maybe Shadow of the Tomb Raider, potentially Battlefield 5, maybe Anthem, maybe Cyberpunk 2077. I don't know. Suro Satch wants to know, do you think Microsoft will win big this year or will have huge surprises this at E3? Well, Jez is really excited for E3, and Jez wasn't really excited for E3 before.
The thing is, man, I honestly don't know. I don't know what they've got coming. I don't know their show or anything like that. But I just like some of the things that I assumed have been disproven, which makes me think like they probably do have surprises. I don't know. I ultimately don't know, but I'm just sort of like I just want to be optimistic at this point. I think it's going to be a fun day.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they'll win. I'm also not sure. Like,
gamers will win.
Yeah, like there's that whole like, who won E3? Was it Sony, Nintendo, or Microsoft? Maybe that mattered back then, but like, man, I mean, everybody's announcing all their games before E3 these days. I mean, Hitman 2 was announced today. Like, I'm not sure anybody wins anymore. And I never really like. I'll rate conferences, but I won't say like, oh, who won? I'd be like, well, I think this was the best. Doesn't necessarily mean like, they won. RN Jesus wants to know, will Mortal Kombat show up at Microsoft's conference? I would imagine that's going to be with Sony. They always seem to have deals with the NetherRealm games, but I do expect it to be shown off this year. RN Jesus wants to know again, what game do you think Xbox starts E3 with? I think Ori and the Will of the Wisps. That'd be a personal favorite of mine. What do you think, Jez? What do you think they're going to start off?
Jason Schreier didn't source Windows Central. Asshole.
You don't like you.
Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know what I did to the guy. I just one day discovered he blocked me. I don't know. But sorry, what was the question again?
What do you think they're going to start off E3 with? First game.
I have no idea.
Jez doesn't know.
I don't know. I have no idea. It's all up in the air now.
So Predator H2O, shout out to Predator. He wants to know, do you think Microsoft has another studio announcement? Rumor was 3. We have the new studio in Cali, Playground, and question mark. Um, I don't know, man. I'm. I mean, I think the playground games thing is pretty much a done deal at this point, and all signs point to the studio being built in Cali. I mean, I know they talked about building some studio for avatars internally at Redmond, but I think that was a small studio of like 10 people. Uh, I don't know if there's another one. Jazz, do you have any input on this?
No idea. No
No
idea.
idea. I mean, we don't have long to wait if they want to make these announcements. 4 days away. Um, JD Gamer wants to know, what is Microsoft's biggest sin this generation? Connect, power, price, DRM exclusives, messaging, or inability to control their own narrative? That's an interesting question. And if I had to pick one of those things, if I could only pick one, because I do believe it's an amalgamation or at least a mix of all those things you mentioned. But if you put a gun to my head and said, Rand, you have to pick one of these things, I would say the price. But then again, you could say Connect, because bundling Connect with the system made it overpriced. But at the end of the day, I think pricing the system at $500 was the biggest mistake, because I think price is the most important thing for a new console, especially when your competitor's $100 cheaper. I think all the other stuff, like the DRM, the exclusives, which I felt were actually stronger in the beginning of the generation, so I don't agree with that. The messaging could have been better, but the messaging always can be better. The DRM stuff, while hurt in the beginning, I don't really think factored much into it later, even though I know some people still think Xbox has DRM. I still think at the end of the day, it was that price, that $500 sticker shocker when your nearest competitor was $100 cheaper. Jazz?
Sorry, what was the question again?
Jesus.
Like this message is coming in left, right, and center, right?
So JD Gamer wants to know, what is Microsoft's biggest sin this generation? Connect, power, price, DRM, exclusives, messaging, or inability to control their narrative. And you can pick only one. I said price was the biggest. What do you think is their biggest sin?
I agree. It's price. I mean, that's ultimately all the casual audience cares about. And they hit. I mean, if it wasn't for that price point, you know, people wouldn't have been like, if it wasn't for that price point, people wouldn't have been like, so why is this higher priced? And they would have done a little bit of investigation, and they would have seen the deluge of hate towards Xbox. If it was the same price, people wouldn't have done any investigation into it. They just would have been like, oh, I'll buy Xbox One because I had Xbox 360. I agree. It's price. That's all the casual audience cares about. So,
right. Let's see. Critopsy wants to know why the Xbox fanboys can't grasp that criticism is healthy for a product console game to get better. I mean,
it depends on the fanboy, you know. I mean, some fanboys, like, they refuse to accept any form of criticism. But there's two levels of criticism. There's like constructive criticism and trolling, clickbaiting, asshole criticism. Like, I saw Jason Schreier at Kotaku just said, it's easy to bash Microsoft, it's also fun. How is that constructive criticism or even vaguely professional? That's just shit. You know, that's not good kind of criticism. You know, when these artists are, you know, working really hard to essentially create experiences that create joy. They're not writing shitty blog posts like us, you know, basically leeching off a creative industry because we couldn't do anything more that took more skill or talent. You know, like game journalists are basically people who love games who were too dumb to become game devs. That's the truth. There is nothing hard about being a game journalist. Nothing. You know, it's just so that's why, like, when it comes to criticism, criticism's really important, but it has to be constructive, you know. And I think like a lot of our industry, and especially with YouTube and social media, people don't want the nuance. They don't They don't want the information. They just want to know whether they have to hate something or love something. It's always like it's like this dichotomy. It's like you've got to either upvote it or downvote it. It's got to be like or dislike. There's no like, this game's pretty good, but maybe it could do this better, because nuance is boring. So like in our current climate where clicks are more important than anything in the world, the nuance of constructive criticism is lost. And I think but that goes both ways. The nuance of like being able to accept constructive criticism is lost too. Like where some fanboys even if it is constructive criticism, they'll ignore it because it might have some nuance. I think that's just human nature. You're ultimately fighting against human nature there. And I think everyone could just do Rand with being a little bit fucking nicer to people.
That's how Colt Eastwood ends all of his videos, is just be nice.
Is that what he says?
Yeah.
Well, he's right.
I mean, I am I'll just relate this to my YouTube channel. I am a fan of constructive criticism. If you have hey, I don't think this works. I think this is better to do it X, Y, and Z, and you point out reasons why. That I love that, and I know people at Xbox love that. It's the unnecessary bashing with no constructive that they don't enjoy. It's not good enough to say Crackdown is trash, because that doesn't help anybody improve anything. Crackdown is trash because of X, Y, and Z, and actually give reasons why, and then say how you can improve it and make it better. Just like bashing something for the sake of bashing something is worthless, in my opinion. You know what I mean? I'm all about trying to improve, and Xbox is all about trying to improve. So it doesn't help Xbox improve by saying they need to do better. Well, yes, they know they need to do better. How are they going to do better? What examples can you give to help make them better? What would you do to make it better? Like, that type of constructive criticism is what any content creator wants to hear and what any company wants to hear. How can we improve the experience for you? Just saying something is shit doesn't do anything for anybody. And with that, we're going to end the show. We had a ton of people here. Jez broke some news about Crackdown 3 being, release date and all that stuff. So I appreciate everybody tuning in and watching.
Hello?
Yeah, sorry about that. So Jez, what do you got going on for the rest of the week?
Nothing, man. I don't know. It's just going to be E3 craziness, isn't it? Going to be up all night doing E3 stuff all the time, constantly, and it's going to be awesome. I'm so lucky that I get to write for games all day, and this is like this time of the year is like Christmas to gamers, and I hope everyone has a great time, great show, and just be fucking nice to each other.
Yes.
Like Carl Eastwood says, just be nice to each other. It's all games. It's all gaming. All systems have plus points and negative points. Games are just these amazing tools that just sort of exist in this world of shit. Like outside of this stuff, which everyone bickers about all day, there's just shit going on all over the world. And we're lucky that we're in a position where we don't have to worry about anything but these works of art that people slave over to give to us. So I'm a little bit drunk, but my message is true. Just be nice to each other.
Yeah, Mr. Titan X wants to know if we're going to live stream our E3 reactions to Xbox. We won't be live streaming during the show, because I actually like to just kind of chill and watch it and write notes and get my thoughts together. But me and Jez will have a podcast or reaction show afterwards at some point in time before Bethesda's press conference. So look out for that. As always, follow Jez on Twitter. He posts articles on Windows Central, like the one he broke about Crackdown 3's release date. If you enjoyed the show, make sure you give it a thumbs up. God, I can't even speak. Thumbs up. Hit the dislike button if you hate the show. If you're new to the channel here, hi, my name's Rand. I make daily content about Xbox and the gaming industry. Sometimes talk about PlayStation, review games. Hit that sub button. That would mean a lot. And with that, we're going to end it. And thank you to everybody who watched it on YouTube and Google Play and iTunes. And we'll be back on Sunday for the Xbox reveal, and then probably for a podcast on Wednesday to talk about all E3 stuff. So have a good rest of the week, guys, and we'll see you on Sunday. Later.